girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns to historic Cruise Stadium. Slipknot, Disturbed, Pantera, The Original Misfits, Evanescence, Limp Bizkit, Judas Priest, Stain, Breaking Benjamin, A Day to Remember, Falling in Reverse, Sleep Token, Rise Again, 311, Seether, Mudvayne, and many more. May 16th through the 19th, Columbus, Ohio. Tickets on sale now at SonicTempleFestival.com.
Man, I had to stretch it a little bit, but
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. Real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we can continue to bring you conversations like the ones I'm about to bring you today. It's another day. We're dealing with another demon. What's going on, guys?
how's it going, man?
We got Frank and Max here from band Another Demon. And usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. So we'll start with you, Frank. Originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Me? I wanted to be a guitarist in a metal band. They ain't gonna lie. I grew up in an 80s hair metal band. So I always wanted to be kind of like my parents. So then instead of hair metal, I saw King Diamond and Yngwie and then Exodus, and my life was over after that.
Nice. What about you, Max?
So we're going with what we wanted to be like when we were like little, and it didn't have to be a music thing.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. I wanted to do the standard astronaut thing, man, or like go look for like, dinosaur bones or some stuff. Are we allowed to curse or are we not supposed to?
Yeah. This is an adult program.
Thank God.
Yeah. And then, then I wound up doing completely other things, but that's great.
Yeah. Very New York friendly program I got here. So we're good.
I appreciate that.
I'm retired Navy, so I got the sailor's mouth myself.
Yeah.
Pass the fucking butter.
And then, Frank kind of already said it, but for you, Max, when did the music thing kind of catch your attention?
So I was born in a household where there was music, although my parents were not musical. My dad was like an aficionado, though. He used to work during the late 60s and 70s at the Fillmore East. And so he was around all that, wild stuff back then. And so I heard all that. And then the defining moment for metal for me was my local library actually had vinyl, right? And so I went in one day and there was this album that had this amazing cover, just like a sick ass cover. And it was this iron looking eagle thing, and it was yellow or gold looking and whatever, screaming for vengeance. And I took that home and I listened to it and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I actually asked my father, because I respect him and I love him so much. I was like, do you mind if I listen to this? Is this okay? And he was like, listen to whatever you want, man. So then I went back to the library and I got all sorts of cool stuff, Maiden stuff and like Deep Purple and Sabbath. It was amazing. So that got me onto all that stuff. And then I went to then I got into the natural progression from there was like, 85, 86, all the great initial thrash records came out. And then that just like, knocked me out. And then I went to see, maybe 87 or something. I went to see King Diamond live at Lemoore and the Cro-Mags opened up.
Nice.
And all of a sudden, these dudes were sitting on these other dudes' backs, going into the pit and going crazy and whatever. And I'd never seen anything like that. And I went, what is this? And I bought Age of Quarrel the next day. And then that brought me into the whole hardcore thing. And then that's it. I mean, been hardcore and thrash metal. And then, of course, a lot of other music in my life, too, besides that.
Nice. Yeah, he brought back the memories for me too. Is like how good we had it with. I mean, hopefully, I see vinyl kind of making a comeback, but I was always like a visual person. It's like the artwork and stuff would attract you to it. And I remember, like I've shared this story multiple times, but it's like one Christmas because here we are Christmas weekend, And I remember like my sister was like in it, Rod Stewart and Leif Garrett and shit like that back in the day. And, she's opening up her albums and there they are. And then for whatever reason, like my dad or somebody got her Kiss Alive. Yeah. And she was just like, what is this? Ew. And I'm sitting across the room and I'm just like, oh,
Yeah. Give me that.
Yeah. And then that was it. Then I was off, man. It's just like the visuals and then being able to sit there and like read the lyrics and listen, just go on that journey when you play the record, and go through the artwork and stuff. It's just, I hope it keeps making a comeback because all this, the streaming stuff, I mean, it's convenient, but you lose that,
Absolutely. I was in a record store yesterday, just shopping for my dad and, the thing of flipping through, right? Flipping through and stopping or passing at various things and things that, a lot of things that already. And you're like, that's cool just to see that, or something that you're like, oh, wow, that's a re-release. That's really cool. I grabbed like 3 things for myself. And I'll say one other thing about that too, that you basically mentioned was, when you're using a digital device, for years before, like now we have Spotify and all that, where they'll show you like artwork and stuff like that. Remember with earlier digital stuff like the iPod, it was just all black and white. It was just a song name, the album, the song name, whatever, and it was just black and white, and you would just scroll through. There was nothing to it.
Yeah, it's very sterile.
Yeah, it missed everything. Yeah, you're right. It was convenient, but there's nothing like I got my vinyl collection over there. There's nothing.
Yeah. Well, it was like, I mean, I just came from the gym and it's convenient to throw on my headphones and then, get on Apple Music and like, all right, what do I need to get me through this workout or whatever, So it's good to have that there. But yeah, the art of just, because that's part of like the rush of the world. Everything's like hurry. And that, it's almost like getting into meditation or something, when we just get to chill and listen to our album and like the world stands still for a little bit. And then there's something to it, man. It's like it's a spiritual experience.
That New York time everybody's getting into, with the Give It To Me Now. You remind me of a story. We played in Wallingford not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. And on my ride over to the venue, I passed the Trumbull Mall in Connecticut. And there was an FYE that I used to stop there before when I went to rehearsal with my old band a while ago. And I would do the same thing, flip through, look at all the artwork, look at this, look at that. And, when you're doing stuff with a band, you want to see what's relevant and this and that. It's like you felt more connected. Music was tangible. Now it's just an abstract thing and people are so flippant with it instead of being able to grab onto something. And, that's why, merch is great. When you got good artwork and you could at least get it out to the fans at the show, then there's a connection that they don't know the kind of connection that we used to have, but they're getting a taste of it there,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. Going back to Kiss, man, they knew how to market. You know,
Man.
Lunchboxes, comics,
Yeah.
toys.
coffins.
Right. Kiss coffin.
Yeah.
Dimebag's in a Kiss coffin, isn't he?
Yeah.
With Eddie Van Halen's guitar, I believe.
With Eddie Van Halen's guitar,
Yeah, exactly. So look at that, man. Wow, that's like a time capsule in itself. You know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Kind of literally, but you know.
Yeah. But then so you know, you start going to shows, you guys start you know, when was it where you guys started performing yourself and getting into, you know, playing?
I'll defer to Frank on that first.
Oh, me? So the first ever performance I had, it was 3 dudes, me and 2 other guys. One's a Marine and the other one's not with us anymore. But we were playing a graduation party as like an impromptu thing at a VFW up in Brewster, New York. And we literally scared the shit out of everybody but 4 people in the room. And we enjoyed every minute of it. So we just kept going. You know, we were playing like death metal and Slayer stuff and, you know, sucking at it too. It wasn't it, but it was fun. And, you know, ever since then, it's been like we had like a little bit of a steamroll and it was fun. We've I've personally played, I know Max does as well, played not only in the States, but in Canada and in Europe. And it's such a great feeling, especially when you're in a place where you have never been before, have absolutely no clue what to expect, and there are people just into it. And it's, you know, it's such a great, rewarding feeling as a musician.
So from that from that first show, or was that the show that we are now, that you gave us the recording of for the new song that we're working on?
No, so that was funny too. So when I first started my first real band, it was called Metadox. We played a battle of the bands at Brewster High School, and I was the only one that was not in high school. I wasn't a super senior. I had graduated my regular high school. Most of my bandmates were in that high school, and we played an instrumental set of some thrashy death metal, and we won the battle of the bands. It was fun. So we were lucky enough to get a recording of the show off of a camcorder that was made into an MP3. So the quality of it is like crazy, but you know, it feels like one of those old school underground albums. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and then so he handed that to us and was like, you know, I'd like to do this song. This is, you know, in honor of my buddy. And so it's one that we've been working on now from, you know, however long ago that was, decades, right? Yeah. And so that's really cool, right? All the way from your earliest, you know, shows to you know, reorganizing it somewhat and putting it together now. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And then like Max, so you know, you talked about that experience at seeing King Diamond in the Cro-Mags and stuff. And then when did you know, you start getting the itch to start playing?
Yeah, so that, you know, that story is one of my favorites. So I had put together a band, you know, the local thing that we all do, right, with a couple of guys, and I might be like a couple of you know, weeks, maybe a year or two older than Frank, let's just say, you know, so I wound up putting a band together, and they, you know, everybody's gone on to do some really cool things, but that was at the time when CB's was at its, you know, at the matinee peak. So I went down by myself one time. So we hadn't played a show yet. This was with my band, but we rehearsed a lot. We hadn't played a show yet. We were young. It was really young. And I went down to CB's. I forget who I was there with, but whatever. Anyway, and we, you know, we kind of all knew each other. And I was talking to Pete Kohler, and he was saying something about Armand leaving. And I just, yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm a drummer, whatever. And he's like, give me your number. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you know, 16. I was 16. So I'm like, sure. All right, I'll give you, you know. And then I went home and I was like, Pete Kohler asked me for my number. Pete Kohler asked me for my number, like whatever. And I didn't hear anything for 6 months. In the meantime, my band that I had put together had played, and it was fun and all that. 6 months later, I get a call. And it was Pete, and he told me to come down, and I played with them for a few days, and next thing I know, we were playing at the Anthrax. So that was literally the first couple of shows. Like, that was the first shows I ever played. And then from then on, you know, I got sort of, I was a bit of a hired gun in a whole slew of different bands. And then, you know, branched off and did all sorts of other things and played music in different ways, and then got the itch, and now here we are.
Well, I mean, you don't have to be so humble on here, man. It's all right. You know, I mean, you got to play with, you know, I read Sick of It All, H2O, and Murphy's Law and stuff. Like, what were those?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I can get into it. It's not, I mean, I try to be a nice guy, but it's, you know, the question was like, how did you first get into it and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to, you know, go crazy with all the stories and stuff. But, you know, basically, like, one thing leads to another, you know, and that's really important, you never know. Right. So
it's all very well connected. A lot of those.
Sure.
camps.
Sure.
So,
but you also, like, you also, I think, have to, you know, be conscious too, and not just be like a dummy walking around. Like, you have to be good at your craft. Right.
Yeah.
And when you're playing, right. And you, are representing whatever that band is in that moment, like, you know, there's certain, like, you should be a professional, you know.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying I wasn't an idiot. I was a young idiot, but at the same time, I knew and I loved what I did, you know. So it's like, all right, man, shit, I just got off stage playing with Burn, like, fuck, man, like, that was badass, and I'm going to carry myself that way. Not conceited, but I'm going to carry myself that way. And then, you know, you never know. You meet somebody else and they ask you to do something, and you go and you do it, and you act professionally. You show up on time. You do the things you got to do, and that's really important stuff, man, that people don't really talk about.
Yeah,
I mean, it may not sound crazy, but that's really important.
No, I agree 100%. I try and teach that to my daughters. You never know who's watching and who's in the room with you, you know, wherever you go. You're basically, I mean, they invited you into their home, you know, into their family, and you don't want to disrespect the family while you're there. Like, I mean, when I was in the military, it's like wherever we went, we had to respect the cultures, you know. But first and foremost, you're representing the United States military, you know. And were there a lot of us that became idiots, you know, at alcohol, you know, and then
right.
Whatever,
that was my favorite additive. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I get I totally connect with you and what you're saying, because then that opens so many other doors. Yeah. You know, for like, hey man, we need a guy, and then you got all those amazing opportunities. So
so I'll just jump in on that one real quick, right? That's exactly how the Murphy's Law thing happened. So I had been subbing this was the second time I had subbed for Sick of It All. And I forget the exact, you know, dates and things like that. Right. But, you know, 90 something, whatever it was. And so I was under the impression that I was going to be going out. We were going to be going to Europe together. And then at the last minute, Armand came back in, which was fine. But I didn't really have anything to do. So then I got a call from Todd Youth at some point, and he asked if I would come down and check it out. And it was because people had just cross communication, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I went out. I wound up going out the same amount of time I would have been out with Sick of It All, but just with Murphy's Law, which is great. So I picked up another gig, and it was terrific. So.
I mean, word of mouth, this guy's a professional, and he had a good reputation. So that definitely is huge. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about, you know, the first time I met like Jimmy G, I was still in the military, and I was out at, like, I think it's called Kings Point, New York, outside the city. It was like a Merchant Marine Academy. I was there for some training.
Wait, and I'm curious, where? Do you remember?
I thought it was called Kings Point.
It probably is, but like, was it in Queens, or was it up like? Like in the Hudson? I mean, Long Island or like the Hudson?
It was up outside, like in it was very nice area outside of Manhattan.
Okay.
You know, and then I had to take the bridge to go in. So we had the weekend off, and it just so happened, like I think my one buddy Aaron, who used to be in Integrity, was living out in New York at the time. So then I had the weekend off. I went to see him and spend the weekend with him. And it just so happened that Terror was coming through that weekend as well. And Frank, Florida Frank, who's now in Hatebreed, you know, he was my old roommate here in Ohio. He was playing with Terror at the time. So we went and hung out with Terror. And that was the first time I met Vinnie Stigma and stuff. You know, got to go to New York Hardcore Tattoo and everything.
Right.
And after the show, we went to Manitobas.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm there on military duty, but I had the weekend off. You know, I wasn't in uniform or anything, but we're making small talk. I get introduced to Vinnie and shit, and it's like, yeah, I'm here, you know, military training. Next thing I know, like, Vinnie gets up on the bar and he's like, listen, all you motherfuckers, this guy here is better than anybody in this fucking. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna get me killed, you know?
Yeah.
This guy serves our country. Everybody's like, oh, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow, you just brought up, man. I mean, the Manitobas, man. Holy shit.
Yeah,
whole,
you know, I'm just
I kind of forget just because it's you know, it's been a while. Like that whole part of the Lower East Side was really fun. Like there was a lot of really cool places to hang out, and you know, it's like besides a lot of the places that you've heard of, like there was Manitobas, right? Or you originally too, there was before it got kind of posh, there was Niagara, and then 7B, and something else I'm forgetting. But we would just make the rounds, you know, and wherever you went, like you'd be like, hey, cool, you know, all that kind of stuff, and you'd hang out with everybody all night. That's great. But that's an amazing introduction to like hanging out, man. Man. Next thing you know, Vinny's on the bar and he's like doing his Vinny thing for you.
Yeah. Oh, it was. It felt like I was getting knighted or something, you know, like my royalty, you know, and shit.
Yeah,
you know?
You were, man.
But at the time, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. But no, it was awesome, and like, yeah, me and Vinny have been cool ever since, and
that's great.
All those guys, you know. Yeah. So let's get, you know, when did Another Demon then come together for you guys?
I will defer to Frank.
I was going to defer to you, but that's fine.
I've been talking too much, dude. I've been talking too much.
My old bandmate and drummer, another Frank. So for the first little bit of this band, we were going just by our initials to tell each other apart.
Right.
We started jamming after a while. We hadn't played with each other in a long time, so we started jamming like right when everybody started feeling comfy after COVID. And he and I were not like really COVID scared people, so we didn't care about getting together. And he had a space, so we got in the space, and you know, we were jamming some stuff, and we were having fun. I put an ad out on Craigslist, and then this fucking guy answered, and I had no idea, because it's like, you know, we had a couple of people answer, and I worded it specifically that, you know, we didn't really want kids. We wanted, you know, mature, serious musicians looking to see where things are going, right? So I ended up meeting Max at a place called Blazers, which is now kind of like a sacred place for us to go.
Good bar food. Good bar
food. After how many beers? We hit it off. We had a great connection. We jammed a couple times with everybody in the band, and then we went in and we went straight into recording. And it took us a little bit because we had a little bit of a personnel change thing, and people had health issues and whatnot. So that recording that we have out now, Frank Vaterina played drums on, and we did the arrangements and he wrote some lyrics to some of the songs. We had that. I did all the guitars for pretty much I did all the guitars on every song, and Max did the bass and sang. Obviously, he did a great job. We then added in a friend of Max's from a while ago that we all met together at a Possessed show in New York City. His name is Jun Takashita, right? I said it right? And
close enough.
Yeah, spell it, take a shit up. But he came in and he laid down some great leads. And we were fortunate enough, too, that I'm friends with James Murphy from Testament and Obituary, for him to do some work with us, too. So he did a guest spot on one of our songs. And came together pretty nicely.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty proud of it. I honestly, I can't lie. I'm most proud of this recording than I am of everything else I've ever done. Because it's solid and it's a true representation of us instead of other people's opinions on songs and everything else. Like, we made what we wanted to make.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump in on that and fill a little bit of a blank too. So the whole reason that that I answered the thing on Craigslist, right? And it all reminds me of like years and years ago of picking up the Village Voice and like going through the ads like for bands and stuff. Because a million years ago, that's what you had to do. You had to put a fucking ad in the Village Voice, you know.
Yeah.
But it's, so people, I think like when they hear Craigslist, they might be like, oh, anybody could do that or whatever. But like, you got to sift through a lot of people. But I had also just put out a 4-song EP, and that's what you heard. So when I responded, that's what you heard, and so you knew that I was doing something that had a sort of a vocal style and some of the writing style that was that you liked, right? So it wasn't just we were like it was out of nowhere, but it wasn't out of nowhere musically.
Sure.
And the other thing was these guys wind up, they live like 20 minutes, half hour from me, and I'm going like, wait a minute, they've been doing this kind of stuff. They knew each other for years. They've been doing this stuff for years. Who the hell are these guys? And so then we got together, and it was really great. It worked out so well. And I have to give a quick shout out to Richie Kennan from Sub-Zero, who is the engineer and runs the studio that we did it at up in Brewster. It's called Barking Dog Studios, and I've been doing everything for years there. And the sound on that thing, it's the thing I'm most proud of too. The sound on that thing is incredible. He's a wizard, man. Guy's a wizard.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of toys for us to play with in the studio to make it sound primo awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Do you know Richie?
No.
Okay. So you know Sub-Zero though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I know of them, but I didn't.
Okay. I figured everybody knows Lou, and maybe Richie. So
yeah, I mean, I was more like in with like Ezak and the Scarhead.
Yeah, gotcha.
Guys, and then Madball and stuff, and then obviously Agnostic Front.
Yep, gotcha.
But and then I wanted to talk about the EP name because I'm very into like the occult and the conspiracy world and stuff like that. So it obviously got my name. But what was your guys' inspiration for As Above, So Below?
Should we deflate? Should we deflate a little bit of that or no?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So when I got in there to their studio where they were jamming, there was, they had all sorts of like, stuff on the walls and whatever. And there was one of these like little, like little scroll things, and it said "As above, so below." And I'm aware of the phrase, and I love the idea of it. So I was like, oh, awesome fucking name for a song. And then what I wrote for the lyrics was really about, it's a little bit different than what people take it as the, for the meaning, but it's really just kind of an expansion of it. My whole thing is like basically a soul that's trapped. All right. And the character, the person, whatever you want to call it, the entity, is the messenger between both worlds, and basically has to see what happens in both worlds at all times, and is basically sort of advising people on what's going to happen, and it's not good.
Yeah.
And musically, for the way that we arranged the song, there's a big clean dip in the middle of the song before it comes into a much more crazy, fast-paced portion, and it's like, you're traveling down and then you're coming back up, but that's the part that you're getting lit on fire with. It's a real nice song to play, and get a little spiritual while we're doing it.
Yep.
It's definitely our end of show ritual.
Yep.
And there's a little musical catharsis going on there, at least in my head on the stage. I know same with Max.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier about how it was like, it could be a spiritual experience when you're sitting down and still and listening. A lot of old vinyls too, like the whole record told like a story from beginning to end. Every song. Is there something kind of similar with that EP?
Well, the themes are the themes, we did, because it was a collection of songs that we had come together on. It wasn't thematic in that way, although stuff that we're writing now is definitely we look at it definitely as what would work together, right? Which is really, really fun, because we're really writing our own stuff that comes from everybody at this point.
A trillion texts a day with ideas.
Yeah. But the goal with this first one was just to write stuff that was certainly dark. That's very important. But I try to be interesting. I try not to say things the exact same way that a lot of other people do. So it's just the way I like to write stuff. So if I think about the different songs, right? So the first one actually was basically kind of written for me, right? So Reduced to Ash, which is an Evil Dead reference. Then second is
Deaf Gods.
Deaf Gods. Okay, so that was one of the first ones I wrote. So Deaf Gods is definitely, that's about basically being let down, and there's some autobiographical aspects to it, being really let down when I really felt like I could have used some kind of spiritual help, and feeling like they were all deaf when I needed them. And then Skull Vessel is just a song I wrote about crazy ritual stuff that I thought was pretty cool. And then we have Drawn and Quartered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Drawn and Quartered, that's pure history. That's about what they used to do to people who were intelligent and experimenting with science in a time when people didn't appreciate that, to say the least. And you'd wind up
burn the witch,
or just for funsies.
Or just for funsies if they didn't like the person, right? Like,
And that was the track you worked with James on recording too, right?
That was Frank. You can defer to that. How
Yeah, no, we have some mutual friends, and we chat all the time about gear and stuff like that. Because we're this is the best time in the world to be a guitarist in with the amount of gear that's out there that you could buy. And James is a big gearhead, and he owns a studio in Florida, so we chatted it up, and I sent him the track. I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And the first thing that he sends me back in all caps with exclamation points is thrash. And he hasn't really been playing thrash in a while, and he took his time with it. I will say he thought it out pretty well what he wanted to do, and I'm grateful to him because he's a phenomenal guitarist, and he didn't try to outplay everybody in the band. There's some people you ask to do a guest spot, and they're like, okay, I have to pull out every stop in the book to just throw this into a song. You're like, I could never replicate that. What the hell did this guy do? He put like 12 tracks on the solo. But James played with us, not at us, and that was a good thing. And I'm grateful to him with that. I also want to give a shout out to one other person that helped with the album. It's like a kind of like a, I don't want to say a silent editor, but like I valued his opinion. And Carl Sanders from Nile, I talk with him all the time. He's a good friend too, and he loves our stuff. And it made me feel good that he said that. Deaf Gods in particular, he was like, I could listen to this song all day. You guys really nailed it. And he says, you guys are like, you're taking that whole Slayer vibe and you're killing it and you're making it heavier. Nice. So that felt good.
Nice. And one of the main things that go ahead, Max. You had
I was
something?
just going to say too, James Murphy played on, I don't know, maybe one of my top 3 at least Testament records too, right? He played with Lombardo on The Gathering. So like, that record is so sick, man. So that's just a big thing for me too. So
yeah. So one of the main things that I really wanted to ask you guys about too, because I'm curious about this whole process and bringing us back to vinyls and pressing vinyls and stuff. But you guys have you're getting ready to put out a single with for people, like there's a message, an inspiration, or just personal messages that people can get or whatever in the process. So there's only going to be like one of, it's going to be very unique. How is this? Explain this for the audience, this process and the inspiration of doing this.
Okay, no. You start and then I'll fill in.
All right, so
because it was you who they contacted initially.
Fair. Okay, so there's a small record company / record shop in Brooklyn, New York called Least of All Records, right? Spelled very funny, so it took me a second to figure out that that's what it was.
LEST and then AVALL.
Yeah. Least of All Records contacted us, a young lady by the name of Emily, and she said she heard our stuff. She saw that we were booked up in Rochester, and she gave our stuff a listen, and she wanted to do a direct-to-vinyl recording with us. So she explained the process, and we basically go into their studio. They mic everything up. They get some levels, and we do a straight live recording. One shot, one kill.
Song.
Just like that. One song. It's a 7-inch vinyl. It's only one song that we're able to do, and we do a pre-order for the song. And however many we sell, however many copies we do that day, we have a little note for the people that purchase it, that gets added onto it, and that's it. We can't record more than 5 minutes of music on the 7-inch.
And the cool thing about, I think the thing that pulled me into it was the reason why it's done that way is because they have this really old, I don't know, like 50s or something lathe cut machine. So as you're playing it, right, like, yeah, it's going through the board or whatever it's going through their board. But on the other end, it's immediately being etched into the glass. What do they call that?
The glass master.
The glass master of the 7-inch. So like, that's it, man. Like you hit go and that's it. And you can, give the shout out to people, like, say their names and things like that. But it's really cool because it's cutting it right then and there.
Yeah, that's sweet, man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Reading that concept and definitely, something that unique for the fans to, latch onto and put their order in. It reminded me a little bit of, it's kind of different because it's like, it's like the keychains where you find your child's name or whatever. But when I was a kid, there was like my mom and dad got me this little like vinyl that was for Billy.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Billy.
That's awesome,
for all the Billies. It wasn't just for me.
No, it was for you, man. That day, that was for you.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean,
That's
if
so
you go
cool.
through you guys though, in order this, it would
Right.
be.
Yeah, that's
Fuck
true.
all those other
That's true.
Billies.
I think we have to don't we have to say in the beginning, we have to say the people's names that we're shouting out? And
I
then we
believe
go
so.
into the song.
It's almost like a vinyl cameo you guys are
It's a
doing.
vinyl. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, man. I definitely interested in that concept. So like if
Hey, can I jump on that for a second?
Yeah.
So the song title for that, we're doing a new song called Get Dead. And I'm wondering if this is a familiar concept to you. All right. So the lyrics are about the old kill cards that, in World War II and in Nam, when, a division, or I'm not sure if the wording is correct, but would wind up killing a bunch of the enemy, they would take the card out of the deck, the ace of spades, right?
Yeah.
And either put it in their pocket or nail it to their head. I'm sure you've heard of this.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I wrote the song about. Songs is about kill cards.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to buy it for if you want to buy this 7-inch for your ex, is that kind of like sending a kill card or what?
Hey, there's a marketing idea, man. Don't tell anybody. Don't give it away.
Send your ass direct to vinyl.
That's right.
But yeah, I think that concept's like really sweet. And if anybody, any of the fans watching and want to, are curious about maybe putting in an order, because I think when's the deadline for this thing?
The day that we record, which is the 21st of January. So
okay.
we have a little bit of time if people still want to do a pre-order on it, but it's only going to be available through pre-order. And Max and I are we love vinyls too, so we're going to pre-order some ourselves. Yeah, we're not going to shout out to ourselves, but we're going to get some, and maybe at our shows we'll have a limited amount to pick up on our merch tables. But
it's going to be very limited.
If you put Least of All Records, if you just put Least of All Another Demon in a Google search, the page comes straight up.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask, like where people could go if they want to get on there and put an order in.
And we have a link tree on our Instagram, on our Facebook. We have links all over the place, and we even have ads out on social media too for the pre-order. So it's real easy to find it.
So yeah, if people get to your guys' socials, there'll be a guide there. Like where would for the fans that might be new hearing about you guys on this too, where would you refer fans to go check you guys out at or follow you?
I would say Instagram is probably the best one for people to go to, because we need the support too. It's great that people like us, but they click it makes it even better. So our Instagram is
on that.
Instagram.com/another_demon_official. Because you can't use spaces anymore. You have to use underscores. But we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, Bandcamp. Our Bandcamp is anotherdemon.bandcamp.com.
That's a good spot too, just because so Frank is a master of this stuff. And it's a good place to get merch too. And he's also a merch master. So like there's really, really stuff on there, and I'm not trying to just be a salesman. It's cool stuff.
We got tons of shirts, and one thing I will say is that's really shocked me about our response. We've sold out of merch twice already, and we've only been out since September 22nd, 2023. Right? So we've only been out 3 months as of tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right? And we've sold out of our merch twice already. And it's not like we had one t-shirt.
That's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The reception, the response, however you want to say it, has been so fucking cool and so much fucking fun.
Yeah.
So it's it's been such a blast.
Yeah, but I feel you on that whole, like, the help with the social media thing, man. It's just it's another thing of where everything's headed. Like, it's like certain interviews, like I try and get, you don't got enough likes. I'm like, I got people that like me. I don't know, but social media likes. What are you talking about? So,
if we were in a bar, I'd buy you a beer. We'd sit down. We'd talk. We'd like each other. What's the matter? Yeah, you don't have enough likes, man. Like
I know, man.
The thing, I'm not going to complain though, and I know you're not either. Just because, like, when you think about doing this stuff compared to when we first started, right, a million years ago, let's say, the advantages that we do have with social media, right, far outweigh any difficulty that they may present to us as a band, because it's so much easier for people to find out about you now. I mean, it used to be really fun, right? Like, we go down to CB's and there used to be Some Records. Some was the name of the place.
Mm-hmm.
Right down there. And you'd go down and you'd be like, what's this, this tape today? Who put out a demo and whatever. And it was awesome. But you got to remember, like, that was pretty local,
Yeah.
Maybe if a band came down from, the Northeast or something, and they brought a few demo tapes to drop off, and if it was a 7-inch, that was a huge investment. That's what you got, and then there was like mail order that you would hear, like, from word of mouth, which was fucking super fun, right? But now, obviously, if we can get to, Australia, by like going boop.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of benefits, like you said. Yeah, for sure. I remember I used to do, I was a promoter here in Cleveland. I booked shows and clubs back in the day. And like my first show actually I did was this place called the Fantasy nightclub out here in Lakewood. And it was headlined by Scarhead and Ringworm. So but you would go to Kinko's with the band logos and make your own little flyers and shit, and then you'd be like at the record exchange and at the other clubs and on friggin' telephone poles and whatever, man, to promote. There wasn't like, because half the time people are saying they're going to come to your thing on Facebook just to be nice, or I'm usually the maybe guy, just so
interested.
Interested or maybe guy, just so it's like I'm not saying no, but I'm probably not coming, but
Yeah.
But it was like the hustle was real though, man, and that's how I remember so many guys that I ran with here locally that I would see them, and I see why they're at where they're at today, and the ones that didn't put in the work, same thing,
It's something about that too. Can I just like add, when we just played in Rochester, right? The event on Facebook had 23 people going. So we were like driving up there like 6 hours. Shit. 23 people. We got there. There was like almost 200 people in the club. So, some people just don't want to click the fucking button. Just click the button. It makes me feel good while I'm going there,
Yeah, exactly.
And we were going
it takes the anxiety out,
Yeah,
right.
We were going anyway, but
we were going anyway. We were going to play the Bug Jar in Rochester. We were just fucking psyched. But like, we were like, okay, so if this winds up being, just a few people and it's a great, we just have a blast, fuck it, that's awesome. And then it wound up being awesome.
Yeah, just take it back to that VFW experience, you're having a blast,
Exactly.
Wait, I wanted to jump into and ask you a quick question back to that Scarhead show at the time, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember who was playing drums at the time?
It was Goat.
Oh, it was Eric, man.
And Boston Mike was still around.
Yeah, was still with us, so to speak.
What's that?
He was still with us, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great that it was Goat, man.
But I'll tell you what, man. It's like, and that's when I first met the guys. I got introduced to him through Frank when Frank was still in Ringworm, and for being my first show and having a guarantee, I was like, this better do good, or I'm dead.
Yeah.
But no, it ended up going well, and we all they all stayed at our house. I got this picture of us the next morning. It was like a big Scarhead sleepover party.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I asked because one of my absolute best buddies, I think he played after Goat left. Mark Levy played drums for them for a while, and then, but of course, Goat as well, who's also a great buddy of mine, and known him for 100 million years because we're drummers. He played in Murphy's Law, I think, right after I did, and all that. So anyway, that's why I asked.
Yeah. No, it was a good experience, and it went well. And then I had a decent run in that world for a little bit, and made a lot of friends that I'm still friends with today, because you just try and do business right, and people remember that, like you said, that professionalism thing. I wasn't always professional. I'm not saying that, because I'm 14 years sober now, but let's just say back then I was running a little too, a
little too hot on some things.
Yeah, exactly. But I always treated, to the best of my ability, always treated the bands right, and they remember that today. There's guys that I run into, and it pays off. I go up to the club. Oh, you don't have to pay cover. Come on, you took care of me back in the day, and
right.
Right.
And let me say this too. By no means am I trying to present an image that I was a sober guy or anything like that when I talk about that. That was absolutely not the case. But you're absolutely right. Like the being professional business wise. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
You just take care of people.
I don't know if you remember Cold as Life from Detroit.
I don't.
They're a hardcore band from Detroit. I brought them in for a show, and was hoping for the whole big Scarhead buzz. It was a weeknight though, so it didn't do well at all. But I had a guarantee, so I had to go to the ATM, take money out of my account, man, and I honored that. And later on down the line, Jeff, who was the singer at the time of Cold as Life, I went to Detroit to see Mike Patton and Tomahawk.
Oh yeah,
perform. And Jeff was running sound. He's like, "You want to meet Mike Patton?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I do." And he took me. I got to meet Mike Patton because fucking I took care of him back in the day. So it's just like that. It's just I'm grateful, man. I look back at even all the hits and misses.
Yeah.
And
but if people can say, if people can look back at that and say, he was a solid guy, that's I think really important.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's most important to me, like any kind of legacy to leave behind is just, what are people going to say about you at your funeral? Hopefully, something good. So
he was a
that's what I
lovable
try and
dude.
work towards today.
Yeah.
That's mine.
But so before we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you guys a couple questions I normally ask guests I have on. Who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
You first.
Okay, so all around, like it's not just music?
Yeah, all around.
Oh man. So okay, this is not to sound corny, right? This is the truth. Like I've been I think we're all probably lucky to have at least that many people, and I hope people would have at least that many people, right? So man, I mean, I got to go back right off the bat. I'm gonna lump my folks together, right? And we had a hard upbringing. It was a really difficult beginning of my life and my family's life. So I give them a lot of credit. I saw them, what it was? I saw them work their asses off. And we didn't all get along, so there's that. I say that, cautiously, but I saw them work their asses off. And so that plays a huge part in all aspects of my life. Cause, I'm not playing music professionally, all the time. So like I work, and seeing how they conducted themselves and how they got us to where we were, to where we are today, or even where we were just a few years later. Huge one. Man, can we go back and forth? Can you do one and then I'll do one and then you do one?
That's a great idea. So we have a little time to think between, bro. I'm gonna say flat out, the first person that molded me into who I am is my grandfather. I was fortunate/unfortunate enough to be born to teen parents. So my grandfather was really my parent. He was a military guy and a politician in New York, and I got to travel in a lot of circles that most people don't get to travel into, and I'm very grateful to that. I learned how to be a properly respectful person by him. I also learned how to test my limitations and that old adage, fuck around and find out. So it was a really good upbringing, and I stayed with him. I was very close with him right up until he passed away in 2017. I was there with him when he died, and
Wow.
I'm still lingering with the effects of that and the fallout from that to today, but I would not have it any other way, and I can only hope to be half the man that he was.
Wow. Yeah. My father was a World War II Marine, invasion of Okinawa, and
No shit.
he passed around that same time period, but it's like everything you were just saying about your grandfather, I was just like thinking about my dad and everything that he did in the relationship we had and how he molded me. So sorry to interject that, but yeah, you got my emotions going there too, man. Appreciate it.
I think it's great that brought that up, man. And when I think about the history and I'm big into all sorts of history, and you said the Battle of Okinawa, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. So the second one, I'm going to go with the second. The second one is also a pair, but I promised the last one's also a pair too, but it's different. So I'll go for my second. People who molded me later on in life, and actually I think have gotten me to the best place that I've been. And that's my wife and my daughter. And people may say like, that's cheesy, your dad, your parents, and then your family. No, you fucking family, man. I mean, these are the people that, like, so I'm an only child. My wife is an only child. And so, we really I didn't grow up with much in the way of family. Right. So she's been an incredible, like, rudder for me. She directs me really, really well. Keeps me on track. And then when my daughter showed up, there was this immediate moment, right, that of course I'll never forget, where, like, as soon as I looked at her, I was like, me lion, me find meat, me get food for you, me die at job with heart attack or whatever, so you go. Like, so many things. You talk about 13 years sober, right? Like, things changed when she started being able to walk, and I was like, I need to be able to get up and get out of bed every day and do what I have to do, or be a dick, right? But, like, I didn't want to be. So, like,
yeah,
a lot of habits changed. So there was a lot of molding right there.
Yep.
And then my last one's a music one.
And another memory bringing up for me too, man. I've been a single dad of two daughters myself, and now they're young adult women in college and stuff. But I talk about my dad and what an influence he was on me, but I probably learned most about how to be a man by raising two daughters. My daughters have taught me.
Awesome.
So
that's
like,
amazing. How old are they?
23, and my youngest will be 20 on New Year's Eve.
Wow, dude. Congratulations. That's amazing. Did you say they're both in college?
Yeah. And my youngest just got her blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So I'm like, yeah.
All right. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean,
number two.
I'm gonna not be a copycat, but I'm gonna be a copycat because it's unique to me too. My wife and my son. My son's 13 years old. My wife and I met when we were, I guess you'd say we were kids, even though we were in our early 20s, because I, like Max, was smart enough to marry an Irish girl, and we both we both tore it up for a long time together. And you know, after we had our son, that particular day, it's actually very, very funny. So my wife has comfortably numb tattooed on her back, and she's kind of a clown, right? So she goes in to get her epidural, and I hear everybody in the operating room just laughing. So I'm like, what the hell did she do? And long story short, we're in there, and the anesthesiologist is a metal fan, and he knew me because he used to see my old band. And he said, "Hey, you're a metal dude. You want to peek over the curtain?"
Oh.
So I peeked over the curtain while she was having her C-section, and my life completely changed in that one moment for so many reasons. So I was like, "Aaron, I love you so much. I see everything now." And then I heard my son start crying, and boom, a light switch hit. And all those things that I used to do, I stopped. And as he was growing up, I was still playing music up until he was about 2. And I won't ever forget this. We played a Halloween metal fest in Detroit, and he had said his first word while I wasn't home.
It was Beelzebub, right?
It was motherfucker. No, he had actually said "Dada" while I wasn't home. So I was like, you know, maybe I really should take a break for a little bit. And you know, I waited until honestly, I waited till he was probably about 11 or 12, right around the time we started getting together was when I really decided to get back into it, because I didn't want to be an absent dad, you know. And you know, I have a great connection with him. He makes me strives to make me a better person, but also a little bit of a testing age at 13 with a boy. I hear it's worse with girls, but it's and my wife, I'm very blessed with her. She's super supportive over everything I do. I can't even tell you how much equipment I have, and the fact that this woman hasn't even thought of divorcing me yet.
She's bad, man. Every fucking week. Something. I'm not kidding.
She's running the numbers on eBay, so she knows she'll be set when you're gone.
It's a circle of equipment. Things come in, things go out. Things come in, things go out. But
I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know how you do it.
I do.
Yeah, these are the talks I like having, man. You know,
good.
It's the real shit. You know.
So I'm gonna go for my last, and my last, actually, I'm gonna hold this up because this is you'll see the H on there, and you will see. Let me get it in there. Jeff Hanneman's autograph.
Nice.
So, you know, all the music that I absolutely love, you know, and it's everything. I play drums, right? And I play all sorts of world music stuff, right? When it comes down to it, the record that I have played the most, far fucking none. Like, I know the record that I have spun the most on vinyl, I've played the most on CD, and I've played on Spotify the most is Rain and Blood. And to me, Jeff Hanneman was the greatest metal riff writer of all times. And to me, Slayer is just they're where it's at for me forever. So, you know, that doesn't mean that I don't love all the other bands I listen to and all that stuff. But when you talk about molding me as a player, like big time in terms of my writing and stuff like that. So Jeff Hanneman is huge to me.
Nice.
All right. So I love how. So Max and I didn't really talk before we did this. I didn't know that you were going to ask this question, but it's very funny that you asked this question. He did that because I have this right here, and this is Gary Holt's signature guitar. and he is one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and he has my favorite color scheme going. So I've been very attracted to Exodus in my later years, and I feel like a complete shithead for not listening to them as much as I should have when I was younger. And, Gary's story, the way that Gary writes, and just not just music but lyrics and the way he approaches things, he's a huge inspiration to me, and I feel like if we were actually in the same space, we'd be fast friends. I'm lucky enough to have this guy in the band because for my birthday he got me a cameo from Gary. And that was like a spike through my head when that hit. That was so freaking cool. I heard Gary Holt say our band name. He knows my equipment. It's awesome. So Gary Holt is definitely like at least my modern day inspiration.
I'll jump on that for 1 second too, because it's a cool story. But so when I was playing in Sick of It All a million years ago, one of the first. So we were doing a lot of like Northeast states and all that stuff. This is when Blood, Sweat, and No Tears came out. So I wound up doing all the initial touring for it. And I forget where we were, but we had a couple of dates with Exodus. And I'm like this kid. I was just this kid, and I'm like trying to figure things out, and like, holy shit, now I'm like, I'm on tour and I'm playing with Exodus, who I absolutely loved, and I'm playing in this amazing band, whole thing. And I remember playing Frisbee with Gary in the parking lot, and just him being the nicest guy in the world, and as a guy who is really young and talk about molding, like he was just hanging out. Like it was just daytime and there was nothing else to do. And he's like, hey, it's, and it's just really cool. So there's a cool story for you.
Nice.
Gary's a great guy.
And then any message that you guys have? I mean, we've mentioned quite a few of our connections to our military, and I always like to give them a shout out. But any message you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
You want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Well, I do.
Go ahead.
I actually. Sorry to go off camera for a second. So I come from a family of military. I never joined. I think I probably should have, but I'm glad I didn't for how my life went. But I have family currently in the military on both sides. My wife's side had military as well. My brother-in-law, Kevin, passed away during COVID. This is my little piece of him here. I carry him with me whenever we go out of town. And my stepbrother Joey is still active service in the Army with his wife and his family. And I'm a big supporter of the veterans, whether it be a veterans benefit, clothes drive, just going making sure everybody has food for Thanksgiving. I'm a Freemason, so we do a lot of veterans benefits, and I was fortunate enough this past summer to play a veterans benefit show down in South Jersey as a fill-in for a band, Weapon X, where we raised a lot of money for the American Warrior Foundation, and they're super special to us. People don't understand. Freedom's only one generation away, and if you don't give a fuck about it, it could be gone just like that. And the people that are keeping it there are those people that are in the uniforms. No matter what branch it is, they're the most important people that you really should honor and respect. Every time I see somebody that's serving or served, I make a point to it to thank them and let them know that they're appreciated. Because there's too many people, especially like I'm from the Bronx. I live in New York. I see too many people just like shit on all that stuff here, and not being political or anything. It's just people are so detached, because they've never experienced it. Live a day in your shoes, and you'll know what kind of man you are. And like for you, you know that you might have felt like he was blowing your spot up in the bar when he was announcing you being the biggest badass in there, right? When he was standing on the bar. But point is, how many other people that served were in there with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, it's either you respect it or you just don't know what you should be respecting, and people really should understand that. So if there's any message for that, be great.
Yeah. And like you said, we're like a generation away from losing it all, man. And if what we have been through since like 2020 as a nation hasn't woken everybody up yet, man, I don't know what,
It blows my mind how old we are that 2001 is just a history lesson now. I remember exactly where I was when that shit happened in the city.
Yeah, my youngest wasn't even born yet. My oldest was just a year old, man. And that was just like, for me, I was just like, because it was just like fun and games in the reserves and the Navy and stuff during that time. And then it got real. And then it was just like, and then I had a baby,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, just I appreciate that message. And, I don't know, Max, if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah. So well, first of all, I think it's important to note that I also haven't served, right? And so the thing that I had a really interesting conversation this summer. Just I was at the beach and wound up talking to this guy who was a young veteran, and I think I'm echoing Frank's message on this part, which is if you haven't been involved, you just don't know. And things that happen to service people, certain things you would never think of, right? Just daily things that are horrible. And you're trying to do the right thing for the right reason, which I think is an amazing idea. So I don't know what it's like. I can't tell you that I lived it. And the other thing that kind of is just always been surprising to me, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't really have to do with active so much, is the history of the VA. And it really bugs me that we don't take care of service people once they're out. I don't know what your experiences are like specifically, but a lot of my family members and people that I've talked to are always struggling to get what they need or what they were promised, let's say, from the VA. And it's just like this whole huge bureaucracy thing to just get medication, and that kind of stuff really bothers me. So I absolutely salute active service people, and I hope that when they do retire or get out, that they have as much smooth sailing as possible, getting what they were promised.
Yeah. I will say, and I'm not like by no means like a huge advocate for the VA. I've done most of my healing and stuff through veteran ran organizations outside the VA, but it has come a long way from where it originally
was. Great to hear.
Now that I'm in the system, I do get, I'll give, they're finally taking this whole health approach now with before it's just getting chiropractic care was unheard of, Now they're finally getting into more of the holistic stuff, and it's not all just throwing pills at you. So progress, man. It's still got a long way to go, but definitely progress.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that, because there's, like I said, there was a conversation I had this summer, and then with a few people for some reason in the past year about this stuff, and to add the stress. From what I understand, to add the stress onto whatever the issues are is just, it's unfair. So anyway, like I said, I hope for the best and smooth sailing.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Well, man, I really appreciate your guys' time today and having this conversation. And I love, as much as I love, I know, we got to hit the bullet points and promote albums and, the band and stuff like that. I personally enjoy getting to know the people, and you guys, got to learn a lot about you guys today. And I'm glad to, honored to have had this conversation with you guys today. And hopefully, let me know when another Demon's going to come through Cleveland and play. Definitely hit that show, man.
Absolutely. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm going to say, too, like to be as interactive with you was so great today. I mean, we could easily have gone right just for, whatever promo stuff and all that. But you're right. It's nowhere near as much fun. So, it was awesome to get to know you, and it'll be fun to, to see you in real, in real life and do the whole hug and handshake thing, man. It was,
exactly.
Thank you for having us here. It was just so fucking cool, man. It's really fun.
For sure. Hopefully we did hit the important bullet points.
That's not that we did great. Right. We did great. Right. The point is, this was awesome. Three-way conversation is awesome.
Well, great, man. Great talking with you guys. And hopefully I'll be checking it out, man.
And if we come to Cleveland, go to Melt or something like that and get some dinner.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm friends with Matt, the owner, so yeah, we'll hit that place up. That'll be a cheat day.
Awesome. So have a great holiday. The best to you and your daughters, and we'll see you soon.
And happy holiday to all your listeners.